I've been called out. Someone's figured me out, man. They have. They said, Alex, mate, all you do is flick mud at the government. You are just a negative Nancy. You're just here to point out where everyone's going wrong and the mistakes that they're making, but you got no solutions. Man, you got me. You got me. Last thing we need is another negative Nancy putting out the vitriol and the hate and anything else. So let me give you my little rundown of what I would do in this situation. First and foremost, I want to give you an analogy. If your house was on fire, you would run outside, grab the hose, but you certainly wouldn't point the hose at the garden and start to water it, right? You'd turn around and you'd aim the water at the fire. That's Labor. That's Labor with this whole mess that they're in. They've run out, full steam ahead. They've grabbed the hose. Everyone's like, sweet, they're going to do something. Ignored the fire and decided to water the roses, right? Like, it just makes absolutely no sense. They're not aiming their efforts at the right place. First and foremost, the number one problem we have to deal with in the country is inflation. If we want to deal with anything else, if we want to deal with housing, if we want to deal with cost of living, anything else that we have as problems and crises at the moment stems from inflation. To deal with inflation, there's a few things that any government can do. Number one, and this is something that they were called out on by the RBA, the very board that is responsible for trying to manage and control inflation in this country. RBA called them out and said government spending is killing us in terms of inflation. We can't do anything. We've got one lever, which is to put interest rates up. Government keeps spending. What choice do we have? So first and foremost, before you put austerity measures and before you increase taxes on the Australian people, maybe put austerity measures on yourself. Straight up, Canberra. First of all, Comcars, all of your freaking Uber rorts, all of your expenses, all of your allowances, gone. If you're lucky enough to have a government job at that level representing the people of Australia, mate, you get a wage and that is it. All other incentives done and dusted. No more. If you want to go somewhere, if you want to do something, whatever else you're trying to achieve, mate, you better be doing it on your own dime. You'd be surprised how much that's going to put into the government coffers on its own. Second to that, let's look at federal and state level expenditure on government organisations, government agencies, government providers. All of those guys need to start now justifying their existence in terms of expenditure. Now, you're going to kick back as you always do. Oh, Alex, frontline services, essential. I mean, who in their right mind, based on that, would start with nurses and ambos and firefighters, you numbnuts? Of course we're going to leave those guys alone. I'm talking about executive level. I'm talking about all the bureaucracy that sit in offices doing diddly squat. There is waste. If you don't understand that, then just get out of the conversation. In government organisations, there is waste, there is bloat. It is literally a cover for unemployment figures. I could honestly say 30% of the entire public workforce would disappear and no efficiencies would change if everyone else just picked up the slack and put in a full day's work. So that'd be the second thing I would do. I would cut down the public workforce and put that money towards essential services, towards getting more ambos, towards getting more beds in hospitals, supporting the public services that we actually need that support us. Very, very basic inflationary measures, but they'd make a massive, massive difference. The second thing I'd do is I'd look to a migration issue. I'm not saying that Australia shouldn't bring in migrants. We certainly should. It's the cornerstone of the population. It's what made us who we are. But at the moment, we do not have enough of anything to provide for the people that are here, let alone the people that are coming. So just pause for a minute, right? I'm not saying stop. I'm just saying take a beat. Let's right the ship before we invite more people on. Bringing people onto a sinking ship is insane. Why would you want them here? It's not going to be good for them. It's not going to be good for us. Pause on migration. Finally, the last thing I would do, if you actually want to deal with the housing crisis, is look at the issues around supply. The demand is there. There's not much we can do about that. You're not going to quell demand with taxes or anything else. Let's look at supply. 95-ish% of all new homes are built by the private sector. The private sector is absolutely hamstrung. They're getting destroyed by regulation and red tape at every single level. Local councils, go. Just get rid of them. Again, in every single state, that's going to be money in the public coffers. If they stay, take the planning controls away from them. Enough of this nonsense. Enough of the average Australian having to jump through 50,000 hoops to get a pergola at the back of their house, let alone build a new house. Supporting them with things like changes around subdivisions and infill developments, particularly things like trees. Like, I get it. Everybody loves trees. But if a goddamn little sapling is stopping a multi-house development that's going to house so many people, then override it, man. There's no need to stop that development. You can just ask the developer to plant another 10 trees, and they all would. We've got plenty of green land. Get them to plant trees somewhere else. Bring in infill development. You look at the government's own housing accord. The government's own housing accord, they came up with it, and the core of it is that they need to deliver X amount of houses. It's a couple 100,000 a year, which they're not doing anyway, but they need to be delivered in well-located areas. Are you finding that in the states that you're in? Because I know in South Australia, the houses that are being delivered are not in well-located areas. They're in either side of whoop-whoop. So again, that's infill development. How do we control and boost infill development? By putting councils in their goddamn place and getting them out of the way. Not listening to the neighbour 7 doors down that just doesn't want a little bit of a shadow falling on their backyard between 3:30 and 4:30 p.m. Who cares? We're trying to house people, right? A little bit of inconvenience for you shouldn't be the primary factor. Very, very simple, right? Like, we're not talking high level things. These are just practical things that will actually make a difference. Are any of Labor's tax changes, anything in the budget, going to make a difference and get people into the housing market quicker? Absolutely not. Are they going to decrease supply and make it more difficult? Absolutely yes. Is the migration at the flow and rate that it's coming in now going to continue to exacerbate that problem? Again, yes, right? So stop trying to create a single solution with a tax that really doesn't address anything. Stop trying to water the garden when the fucking house is on fire. Yeah? Start pointing the hose at the house, put out the fire first, right the ship, simple steps, and it's never, ever taxing Australians more. That's not the goddamn answer. Spend less at the top first. Control yourselves before you try and control us. That's my thoughts. Alex Money.